Our claim is that we are the most authentic Mexican restaurant in the area. We the food that we cook here, it's not your, I wouldn't say your gourmet food. It is sometimes a little gourmet, but it's more of a home cooked style, more of a traditional. You know, the things that were like the chile rellenos. I remember being a kid and eating them the same way. The mole poblano is the same mole poblano that I've been eating from my mother for 20, 30 years. So it's kind of like the same place that I've always seen as a child. And then there's others that weren't, they are not traditional, but they're very home cooked, very much a family style portion. It's not really, what most people would define as fine dining, where there's no flowers on your plate, there's no, it looks appetizing, but doesn't have the bells and whistles that a lot of these the restaurants in the area have. So.
But you would say it's all about the food.
But it's all about the taste that it has in your mouth, Everything that we do in here, everything is from scratch. We cut all our own meats. We don't buy any steaks pre-cut. Everything's cut in-house. Everything's marinated in-house. All the sauces that you would find here, they're all made in-house. Something as simple as the beans. The beans are made from dry beans. There's no canned beans here, so everything is very much fresh and from scratch. The only thing is that we do buy the maize tortillas, but there's no way we can keep up with the amount of tortillas we use.
Right.
So, but it's all very much fresh, made, and authentic. You can come in here and get an order of tacos al pastor, and you can also get something a little more, you would say more fancy, like a shrimp, spicy shrimp. So it varies. We have a little bit of a range for everything. So the barbacoa is something we started with it, when we first opened, and we used to cook it only on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays because it wasn't very popular, and it was mainly the Mexican community that would eat it. And little by little, the rest of our customers started trying, and then we come in here on Tuesday. Why don't you have it on the weekday? So now we have it 7 days a week. We actually ran out at the end of this week, so I got to go buy some more goat. But it's one of those things that you wouldn't think to eat, and then when you do have it, you fall in love with it. I don't think I've had anybody say that they didn't like it. And usually somebody who tries that, it's somebody that would try something different. If you're a meat and potatoes kind of guy, you'll probably like it. But if you will not eat anything that tastes different, I wouldn't recommend you try it because it's not gonna be appetizing to your palate, So it's literally just the meat baked, and then it's seasoned and then marinated overnight. And then in the morning, when we come in here for prep, it usually spends anywhere from 3 to 4 hours in the oven. So it's slow cooked, and then we reheat it when it's ordered. So it's kind of like its own juices. There really isn't anything added to it other than the seasonings that we put to it. The meat's a little gamey. And like most gamey meats, they have a different smell. But we do put something in there that kind of takes away from that. So that's my dad's secret ingredient. So. I joke around. I say, tell my mother. I said, why don't you write down the recipe and give it to me? She never did it. So I'm like, so I show up to the house and I'm like, okay, pen and paper. Let's write this out. And she's making it, and she's like, I said, well, how much is that? She's like, what is a fistful? And I'm like, well, what does a fistful mean? Like give it to me. Let's weigh it. So we're weighing these things, and I'm like, okay, I'm running it down. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just added more to that to the pot. Why did you add more? Well, it doesn't look right. Well, what do you mean it doesn't look right? How, like how can you tell? Like, and it's such a science. It's so hard for you to actually, everybody tells, oh, you got to give me the recipe. I'll give you the recipe, but it doesn't mean you're gonna make it. It's just it's so hard to make it. I'd say the weather has to be right. You can't grind the herb, the seasonings, and the seeds if it's a rainy day, because it becomes pasty, and you need it to become powdery. So it's a process of 1 or 2 days to make the mole poblano. And then, like, if my sister's the one that's making it right now, and you can come in on, if she makes it tomorrow, a huge pot, her wooden spatula, and she'll be there for 2 hours, 3 hours, standing in front of the same spot with one wooden spatula and this motion, up, down, and that's just because it has to be slow fire and it can't get stuck to the pan. So like, it's little details that that add to it. And my sister says, you have to love it. That's what you have to do. You gotta love to do what you're doing, to spend 3 hours in front of a burning pot, and you're sweating, your arm gets tired, it's one of those things, no matter what you do, this business is, everybody thinks, the restaurant business is very glamorous, it's very, oh, you must be making, a killing, you must be making all this money. No, I joke around, I say, You take the number of hours you work and the number of hours I work and compare paychecks, and I guarantee you make a lot more money than I do. The idea of tequila in most Americans and most people is that, like, ugh, because everybody's had a bad experience where they went on vacation somewhere in Cancun and they had way too much tequila and they were hurting for next month and they can't stand the sight. But tequila isn't that which hurts. Like, tequila has become such a good liquor. It's as good as your fine cognacs, your fine brandies. Like, it's that delicate. It's that tasty. Most people's idea of liquor is Jose Cuervo and the yellow stuff, and that's not real tequila. And then, people just kind of have a bad idea about tequila. And I always tell this to people. We have tequila dinners in here, and I say, if there's anything you leave here, you have to think about it this way. When you drink a vodka, it was distilled. It was distilled again, maybe, and then it was bottled. It was fermented before. If it was made from potatoes, it was made from a grain, from whatever it was made. It was just grown, and tequila takes 8 to 10 years to mature a plant. And the piña comes from the plant. That's what gets cooked. So it took 8 to 10 years for that plant to actually reach full maturity, so it can be cooked. Then it's fermented. Then it's distilled, and then it's aged. So some companies age it from 4, 6 months up to 7 years. So you can think about it, that glass of tequila you have in your hand has been in the works for 10 to 15 years. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of love for somebody to do that, to take care of a plant for 8 to 10 years, so they can produce tequila. Like, that is the ultimate, and dedication. And that's that people don't see that. I love Restaurant Week because it's the one time we get to play with things. I'll get an idea, or writing about my sister, and we'll spend 2 weeks kind of like just doing things and seeing, does this work? What can we add to it? We're gonna do for restaurant, we were gonna do a fillet of tilapia encrusted with tortillas. So we're gonna bread them with tortillas instead of breadcrumbs, and then we're gonna fry it, and we're doing a sauce with chile ancho, which is like a little. It's not spicy. It's got a little kick to it, but it's not overwhelming. And it's gonna be like a seafood sauce. So you know, it has other influences, but it's Mexican. You know, you're using all the Mexican ingredients. You're using the tortilla. You're using the chile ancho, the tomatillos, all those things that just come from your background. You know, it's just not reinventing the wheel, but just taking a little twist and making it differently. That's always great to do. I think it was just kind of one of those things that just kind of happened. We were sitting around the house with my parents, and we were saying, what name would we give it? And a lot of them were thrown around, and my dad just came out and said, how about La Esperanza? And then we were like, you know, everybody liked it and said, okay, go with it. And then I was actually in college still when my brother sent me a logo. He's like, this is what the logo is going to be for the restaurant, if you can actually see what you can do with it. So I took the logo and I just I added like a little winey road, and I just the little details on it. He's like, all right, yeah, that looks good. We'll put it on everything. So we started developing the menu, and, you know, everything that had to be done. And then probably a year after we had opened, maybe less, my brother went to Mexico and took a picture of the actual home that my parents first had in Mexico on the side of a mountain. And if you go to the website, you'll see the picture, like the logo, and it was very surprising to us that our logo looked exactly like the house, and it was like you kind of just like, you're like, but, and I said to my brother, did you do it on purpose? He's like, I had no idea, you know, and he's like, and we were literally just like looking through pictures. And I said, well, look at that picture. And he's like, you know, I never realized that's what it looked like. And I mean, you know, I lived there only for about 2 years or 3. So it's not like I had any memory. My brother didn't have, you know, a lot of memory from that house either. But it's just kind of like one of those things that kind of just shows up. And, you know, we joke around and say, we hope that this would work, you know. This is the first business venture we all, as a family, have. I mean, my father worked, you know, in the restaurant business for years. My sister has worked. My other sisters have worked. But it's not, working for somebody is not the same thing as having your own.